Hello everyone, welcome to Full Moon Movies. Captain America Civil War is the moment the Marvel Cinematic Universe stopped being about heroes saving the world and started asking whether they still had the right to. It is not merely a battle between Captain America and Iron Man, but a crisis of ideology, where freedom versus control, conscience versus compliance, the individual versus the institution. The film presents its characters not as figures of fantasy, but as vessels for the modern geopolitical tensions that define our age. At the heart of the story is Steve Rogers, whose moral compass has always been unwavering, but in Civil War, that compass is no longer aligned with global governance. Steve believes that the right to choose to act based on personal conviction rather than political permission is it at the heart of heroism. His loyalty is not to any government, not even to the Avengers, but to his own conscience and to his best friend Bucky Barnes, a man the world sees as a terrorist, but Steve sees him as a victim. Tony Stark, in contrast, is a man consumed by guilt. After Avengers Age of Ultron and the Sokovia disaster, Tony sees the Avengers not as protectors, but as weapons in need of regulation. He no longer trusts himself and therefore believes no one should operate without oversight. His arc is deeply tragic. Tony is not the villain, but he is a man haunted by his mistakes, trying to impose structure in a world slipping out of control. Now, what makes Civil War brilliant is that both Steve and Tony are right, and both are also wrong. Bucky Barnes becomes the emotional catalyst of the film. Brainwashed assassin, war criminal, childhood friend, his very existence forces every character to confront the difference between justice and vengeance. He is the embodiment of the film's central question: are we defined by our actions or by our intent? Steve sees Bucky's humanity, Tony sees only the consequences. We are also introduced to Black Panther in this movie, portrayed with regal intensity by Chadwick Boseman. T'Challa's arc is a study in evolution as well, from vengeance to justice. Unlike Steve and Tony, who double down on their ideologies, T'Challa grows beyond his, recognizing the vengeance consumes all who embrace it. His final confrontation with Helmut Zemo is one of the most poetic moments in the MCU. The living are not done with you yet. A rejection of violent retribution in the movie, otherwise defined by it. Wanda Maximoff ripples with grief, self-doubt, and the consequences of power without control. She is treated not as a weapon, but as a symbol of fear. Vision becomes the unintended voice of authoritarian logic. To prevent catastrophe, freedom must be restrained. Now, his arc represents the alluring rationality of control, which is like a philosophy that sounds safe until it becomes a prison. The film antagonist Helmut Zemo is not a typical villain. He has no desire to conquer the world. He wants to break the Avengers from within, and he does. Zemo represents the truth that the greatest threat to the Avengers was never external, it was ideological. His entire plan is based on one belief, that nations fall not through invasion, but through internal collapse. He does not want to kill the Avengers, he wants them to look at each other and see enemies. The emotional climax in Siberia, where Tony learns Bucky killed his parents under Hydra control and Steve admits he knew, shatters everything. It is not about politics anymore. It is about betrayal. The final battle is personal, raw, and tragic. And unlike other superhero films, which ends with reconciliation, Civil War ends with permanent fracture. Now, the Russo brothers, who shoot the film with grounded realism, like in handheld camera work during the fight sequences, gives weight to every punch, while the Berlin airport battle is staged as a comic book come to life, which is fun, dynamic, and yet underlined by emotional tension. The Siberian fight is shot like a psychological thriller with lighting and isolates each character in moral isolation. Henry Jackman's score blends tension and sorrow, never exalting violence, but highlighting its consequences. Now, when it comes to the themes and subtext, Civil War reflects real-world anxieties about government oversight, drone warfare, surveillance, and the right to act unilaterally. It represents the uncomfortable truth. Sometimes doing the right thing means breaking the law. Sometimes obeying the law means betraying your principles. The film offers no easy answers because the world has none. Now, in terms of box office and critical response, Captain America Civil War crossed over 1.15 billion worldwide, becoming the highest grossing film of 2016. It was praised for its emotional depth, character development, and philosophical courage. Critics hailed it as the best Avengers film in disguise. However, it was not universally adored as well. Some critics argued the film was overstuffed, using emotional manipulation rather than narrative logic. A segment of fans felt Iron Man was unfairly vilified, while others believed the film failed to truly address the implications of its ending, returning to the status quo of too quickly in later installments. Yet, even those criticisms reflect the film's power. It forced viewers to choose a side, not just to watch one. The 4K Blu-ray edition enhances the film's grounded visual style. The HDR brings incredible depth to shadows and reveals details in darker scenes, particularly in the Siberia sequence and the Lagos opening. Colors are even more natural than stylized, giving more gritty, realistic tone compared to the MCU entries. The Dolby Atmos track immerses the viewers. Every repulsor blast, shield impact, and musical cues lands with precision. The bonus features includes commentary by Russo brothers and writers Christopher Marcus and Stephen McFeely, behind-the-scene looks at stunt choreography, and an emotional featurette of the film's impact on MCU Phase 3. While some collectors wish for more deleted scenes, the content focuses on narrative intent than filler. In conclusion, Captain America Civil War remains one of the most important entries in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, not because of its spectacle, but because it dared to fracture its own mythology. It forced its heroes and its audience to confront the cost of power, the fragility of trust, and the question of who should decide what is right. In an age defined by polarization, surveillance, and ideological warfare, Civil War resonates more deeply now than when it was released. The film does not show heroes defeating evil. Instead, it shows heroes being defeated by their own beliefs, and in doing so, it delivers one of the most powerful messages in modern cinema. Sometimes, the greatest battles are not fought to save the world, but to save the soul. Now, this movie is a must watch.